Hiya folks, how's it going? It's Ben Eggleston from GNAR Bike Park and Route Down Events. I'm here with a podcast. This is something that I haven't done for a long time, and it's something that I never really got into as much as I'd like to. I really like podcasts. I mean, I listen to them all the time, not necessarily always mountain bike related, but I like to have them in my ear while I'm doing something else. It just kind of, I don't know. Let me know how you think about podcasts and whether it's something that you want to hear more of in the future. If you could let me know in the comments below, that would be amazing, and we'll try and do some more of these. The reason that I'm able to do one today, and you can perhaps hear it in my voice, is that I'm having a sick day today. Not sick as in awesome, I'm having a great time. I'm poorly sick. I seem to have caught some form of virusy cold thing, whatever you might want to call it, man flu. And I'm weak as a kitten today. I'm on a full day of rest. I am down to 50%, and the rivers of snot that have come out of my nose this morning have been something hideous. So if there appears to be a strange kind of break in the flow, and it sounds like there might have been a pause, then it's probably because there was a pause. I'm not going to cough and blow my nose during the podcast. So if it jumps around a little bit, then it probably means that I needed to blow my nose. Anyway, let's get on to it and let's get into it. There's a few things I want to talk about on this one, but the first two are the two bits of what I'd call big news for the new year. You've probably all heard about them by now, but I just kind of wanted to give my opinion on why both of these things are really good, and they make perfect sense to me. So let's delve into it, and the first one being Gwyn off of YT and moving on to Intense. Now, there's an interview that Gwyn does over on Pink Bike. At the time of recording this podcast, it's still up on there now. And if any of you have seen any interviews with him before, read any interviews with him before, he seems like a super nice fella. He's very chilled. If things don't go his way, he doesn't kind of bitch and moan about stuff. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that has a bad word to say about anybody. Even if it's something that hasn't worked out the way that he wanted to. And this appears to be the situation with YT. I don't know, do I? To be completely honest, but reading into it, I don't feel like it was Gwyn's choice to leave YT because of the fact that he says that it was the weekend of World Champs, and in his interview he says that YT contacted him. He'd been in negotiations about his new contract with them as that was coming up, and he'd spoken to them prior to the race, and they'd essentially said to him, look, don't worry about this right now, just crack on and concentrate on what you're doing and focus on race weekend, and we'll talk about it afterwards. And then after the race, and he's saying like straight after the race, he got a phone call that basically said, yeah, we're not doing downhill World Cups anymore. YT aren't going to be involved in it, and so we're shutting it down, and we essentially no longer require your services. So obviously that must have been a little bit weird for him that it left him without a team. If you could put yourself in that situation, you'd be like, shit, it's pretty late on. Look, if you guys don't know, by the time that World Champs rolls around, certainly in the downhill racing groups or in that culture, they have pretty much either re-signed for the team that they're gonna be riding for, if that's at the end of a contract, or they're pretty much at least talking to other teams about possibilities of where they're going to move to, if not have already signed, and then we just don't get to hear about it until sort of Christmas, January time. But a lot of stuff has already gone down by that point, by World Champs weekend. So he found himself, YT saying, look, we're shutting it down, we're not doing this anymore. And he will have known that most of the other teams are already sorted. They've either got people that are currently in contract and maybe for another year, another 2 years, or the people that have kind of that are people who were forming new teammates, etc. They're already deep in talks, if not possibly signed something already. So who else is he going to speak to? Well, as the interview goes on, he says that one of the first things that he did was pick up the phone to Jeff Stieber. Now, again, if you don't know this, Gwyn lives in Temecula, California, which is exactly where Stieber lives and where the Intense factory is. So it's not particularly unusual that he would call Jeff of Intense, one of the first people to ring. But again, this is another thing that you may not be aware of. Intense were in a bit of a transitional period. They'd recently shut down a lot of their welding works and in Temecula. They'd started to do some carbon stuff, and some of that was going out to the Far East. And things were changing, and in a period of change within a business, that generally doesn't mean that there's a whole bunch of cash just freely available and there to be used and spent on a World Cup downhill team. Now, what's happened is, if you read a bit further into it, what Intense have done and what Jeff Stieber's done mainly is they've had a bit of a rally around and a restructure, and in amongst this restructure for Intense, they've brought in the co-owner of the Geico Honda Supercross team, and they've brought in Ryan Dungey, who's I think he's like 4 times Supercross champ. Now, to me, that says a couple of things. Very specifically, it says that they are focusing on Let's Go Racing, because that's what these guys do. That's it. It's all they've done in Supercross, and it's setting up and getting ready for race weekend and making sure that the logistics, etc., all that side of things are ready to go, and so that Gwyn can just be out the gate and put the best time down that he possibly can. So I think it's a fantastic move. It makes loads of sense, and I can totally see. Yes, it's Supercross and it's not mountain biking, but race weekend is race weekend. At the end of the day, so it's 2 wheels. These things do translate, and I really like the idea of the crossover that Ryan Dungey would want to get involved in mountain biking. And B, I really like the idea that the co-owner of Geico Honda would be. I mean, Jesus, you're going to imagine that he's busy enough with that team. It's a big enough and important enough team as it is. But something has drawn him and made him think, oh man, this downhill mountain biking is pretty cool, and it's something that I want to be involved in. So just by the sheer fact that people from the Supercross side of things are looking to get involved in mountain biking, I can only see that as a positive. Frankly, there's massive positives for Gwyn. He already gets on with Jeff, and he lives just down the road from the factory, so he can pop in whenever he needs to. I don't. Some people have hated on it and been like, oh, whatever. But not many, to be honest with you. I haven't read a lot of kind of disgruntled pink bikers online, although they do exist. But I think most people think that this is a good move, and it makes a lot of sense. Oh, excuse me. So made it 8.5 minutes, 9 minutes in there without needing to cough and blow my nose. That's not bad for today. That could well be a record for today. Anyway, so back to the Gwyn Intense thing. So that's all kind of wrapped up now. They've got a very focused team on racing 2-wheel bikes. To flip back to the YT situation, I believe that Gwyn thought that it was left at a case of, YT just aren't operating this year at all, and that was obviously one of the reasons why he took Nico Mullally with him. They're both out of contract, and it's like, well, yeah, you come and race at Intense with me. Jack Moyer's going to be there. And I suppose a lot of people, he might have been thinking, well, I don't know what's going to happen to Angel Suarez, and again to Martin Whiteley. If you read further into Gwyn's interview, and there's been a whole kind of for want of a better phrase, about turn by YT. Again, none of this is accusational because I don't actually know what happened. Now everything is like third, fourth hand. I haven't got a freaking clue. I'm just talking about what I've read. The about turn suddenly seems to be, well, yes, actually, YT are still going to exist on the World Cup circuit. And I think Whiteley is still working with YT. So, yeah, that must be a bit of a strange situation. But, again, reading through the pink bike, the bile and vitriol that you sometimes see on there, a lot of people are pissed at YT for that and think that it's a shitty move. And they do kind of couple in the whole, I'm doing air quotes here, the rug being pulled from underneath Cams Inc. with the American distribution of it. But frankly, I think we've all got to be honest with ourselves and say that we don't know the full set of circumstances. And as a business owner, I think you have to be realistic and understand just how much money it'll have cost to have Gwyn riding your bikes. And the idea to bring Gwyn in the first place was to say, hey, the YT2S isn't just a cheap bike, it's a really good bike. In fact, it's so good it can win World Cups. And frankly, that job's done, isn't it? They've done it, they've achieved their goal. And from a business perspective, does it really make any sense to then pay another 3 years worth of Gwyn? I mean, a lot of people would argue, no, it's probably not a wise thing to spend more money on. All you're doing is making the same point again. So it's hard. It's tricky. Gwyn doesn't seem like the type of guy to shit on anyone. I've been lucky enough to meet him a couple of times up at Fort Bill, and he's very, very pleasant. He's even talked to my kids. He just seems like a straight up nice guy. So I don't think that in his interview it was about the fact that he's just such a nice fella that he wasn't shitting on YT. I think it's just that he doesn't have anything bad to say about them. I think he's a businessman too. He probably appreciates that he'd done his job for them, and it was probably time to move on. I think the way that it could have happened might have been a little bit different and could have worked out better, but again, in business, you don't always get to control the timings, and these things just happen. Anyway, so that's the Gwyn and Intense news as I believe it to be true. The other bit of really interesting news that I thought was an amazing idea and makes total sense was the Athens. Again, you've probably already heard that the Athens have gone in with Pierce Linney, who is one of the, he doesn't do it anymore, but he's one of the original Dragons from Dragon's Den, and you may not be aware that he's a keen mountain biker as well. It's it's kind of what he does for his off time, and has been for years. So it does make sense that if they're going to launch a brand, that they go and speak to him, because let's be honest, the guy's a millionaire. He knows how to make money, so it's probably a really good guy to get advice from. But here's where the really interesting bit comes into it, is that they've coupled up with Robot Bike Company. Now, these guys, they do. I'm trying to think. Do you know what? I don't actually remember the name of the model, but back in the day there was a Rally Pro model. It was when Rally used to do Rally USA, and there was a Pro model that had titanium lugs and then carbon tubing, and it was definitely a Tomac Pro model. And oh man, look, I'm not very well today, and the old brain box isn't working as well as it should. I just can't remember the name of that model. I think that it was around 90, 91, 92-ish. I'm pretty sure again that it had the old Tioga disc drive rear wheel as well. And we might have seen a version for the Kamikaze at Mammoth Mountain where he rode it with drop bars, if I'm right. Again, well, you guys will probably correct me in the comments, but the thing is about the robot bike companies, they've taken that sort of idea, but now they can 3D print their own titanium lugs, and then just bond the tubes, the carbon tubes in, and the next thing you know, you've got a very, very quick way of producing test mules. Well, actually, you've got a very quick way of producing a full bike, but as far as the Athens are concerned, and to take this onto the World Cup scene, you've got a very fast way to make tweaks. If you want to change a head angle on something and the reach on it, then it's as simple as printing up the front lug, and you can shorten or lengthen the top tube that you cut to put in it. So, first of all, I think from a racing perspective, there's no guarantee that they'll finish on the same bike that they start with. So I'm thinking numbers wise here for, angles and reach and what have you. That may evolve over the course of the season, and with a massive factory behind you, that's actually, you would think it would be an easier thing to do, to tweak that thing over the course of a World Cup season, but it's just not. It's not an easier thing to do at all. Especially with carbon frames, you've got to make whole new moulds. But the other thing is, they may, both G and Rach may end up having different setup bikes and different angles for different tracks. Now, I'm not saying that this is definitely going to happen. I'm just saying it appears from the outside to be a possibility. Now, after they've done this season of racing and they've had a bit of a play with this new toy and this new idea, I'd have to say that the chances of the Atherton bikes, the kind of public release ones, when they come out, the chances of them being super dialed, because it's just direct input from Dan G and Rach, I think they're going to be really good. I know that, again, some of the commenters aren't really, especially the ones my age, I suppose, they feel like they've seen that idea before with the Rally USA bikes and other stuff that's followed on from that, and whether it looks a bit janky, as i.e. scaffolding poles going into scaffolding lugs or whatever. Do you know what? I disagree. I don't think it is janky. I think it's amazing that they can just tweak these. It's however long it takes to input it into CAD. Is it CAD that they would use? Auto Design or something? I don't know. However long it is to input the new numbers into the computer program and then set the 3D printer off overnight and glue bond some new tubes into it, and next thing you know, you've got a whole new prototype frame with a whole new set of angles in. That if you're a racer and you're racing at their level, that's got to be an amazing resource to have. They've also been quite open and said, we've spent so many years in tweaking and designing bikes for other brands, that it does now just kind of make sense that we go ahead and do it for ourselves. We've done it for everybody else, so why not do it for ourselves? Again, I think that the Athertons launching their own bike brand, I think, is a genius move. It makes total sense, and why wouldn't you? Oh, sorry about that. Just had to have another little pause there for a drink. It's amazing how dry your throat gets when you're not feeling too good. Anyway, so let's move on to things a little bit closer to home. So, Route Down MTB events. I launched that new company on Boxing Day, I believe it was, of 2018. So it's very, very new, and we've only kind of just put it out there. The stuff on the social media things, they seem to be growing a little bit. People are starting to hear about it. So, it's in its infancy. And I have had to bring somebody else on board to help me out with it, because, trying to do GNAR and that as well by myself just frankly seemed like a bloody crazy idea. but it is definitely something that I wanted to do. I suppose one of the questions that I've fielded, and this was off a friend actually, is, what the hell made me think that I could have an events company? The answer to that is it's not because I feel like I can do it better than the people that are already out there, and it's not that I've got some sort of grandiose ideas and feeling like, oh well, I'll do this and I'll show everybody. It's not like that at all. It's really based upon the same theories that GNAR was born from. There's 52 odd trail centres in the UK. There's other private bike parks popping up, and they're kind of popping up all the time. And it's never been about competing. It's always been about just doing the things that I would like to see. And if nobody else is going to do those things that you want to see, instead of bitching and moaning about it, then actually get off your ass and make the changes that you want to see, so to speak. So that's the exact same theory that is being applied to Route Down events. All I'm doing is just my version, and doing it the way that I would like to see it. So the first thing to do was to formulate an idea for this racetrack, which I'm sure some of you have heard about, and you may have seen some of the videos. But it's over 1 kilometre long, and it runs from the highest point of Great Barrack Fell right the way down past the cabin, and kind of loops round to end up back in the car park again. The racetrack is it's going to be open all the time, so it's actually going to be a part of GNAR Bike Park, but B, it's being designed in such a way that you can be quite an intermediate, almost beginner-ish rider, and still be able to ride down that track. We are putting some hooks in there, and we are putting some features in there where you can proper send it and get both wheels off the ground and get a bit of style going, and some high speed stuff as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. So if you've seen any of our videos, the things being designed in such a way that there's going to be like camel humps, that if you want to roll through them both, that's fine, but if you want to boost over them, then awesome. There's down towards the bottom, there's a thing that's currently got the name the log raft, that's kind of like a step down with a tabletop flat section on, which is essentially a case pad. So it's kind of thigh high, which has got a bit of a transition and a kick if you want, or if you want to take it at a slightly slower speed, then you can just kind of drop off it onto the case pad and then roll down the landing transition. Or we're actually going to put an alternate line round if you just don't want to touch that at all. So it's in the theory that everybody can ride that track and everybody can have a crack at it. But if you really want to push yourself, then you are going to be rewarded for on race days. You are going to be rewarded for taking those extra risks. Now, during GNAR's general opening, you might just want to session parts of that track, which again, that's what it's there for. I'm not personally a huge fan of the whole racing enduro blind deal. It's not my cup of tea. I have had fairly poor encounters with racing stuff blind before, and it's led to some bad decisions on my part and led to some injuries on my part as well, just not knowing the track. In my feelings on it, you don't see World Cup riders launch themselves down something without at least having have walked it first and at least done a couple of days practice down it. So if you're going to be really pushing yourself and testing the limits of your bike handling, do you really want to be doing that blind? Hey, do you know what? I'm not hating on the whole blind racing thing. I'm just saying, with the whole ethos of GNAR and Route Down, this is just about me doing it my way and the way that I prefer. Hopefully you guys will like it too. So yeah, it's not solely going to be about that track, but that was an important thing to get in for us to do the first races. Now, again, with the racing aspect, there's some things that I should probably talk about with that. So some of my most favourite riders, they don't compete, or they compete very rarely. So for example, people like R-Dog and Graham Agassiz, people like that, you'll see them compete sometimes for select events that they really want to do, but when you read about what they have to say about it, the reason that they're not competing all the time is because they'll straight up tell you that they don't enjoy the pressure of it all, or they don't flourish on the days when there's so much pressure. It doesn't help them be the best rider that they can be. So, I have to look at myself as well. There's been plenty of opportunities over the past couple of years to enter into various different races. As a marketing thing, it probably would have been quite good for me. Oh, excuse me. Oh, sorry. What was I saying? As a marketing thing, it probably would have been quite a good idea for me in the early stages of GNAR to pull on a GNAR jersey and get out there and mingle in the pits and enter the races, and that might not have been a bad idea, but I very much agree with with like our dog's sentiments of that kind of pressurized day, and you've got to perform on this run. That actually doesn't suit me that well either. I know that some people really do. They take that pressure on board, and that kind of enhances their riding. And it's horses for courses. We're all different. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things with Route Down, but one of the things that we're going to be doing with this racetrack, and one of the events, and I suppose this is the first time that I've talked about this publicly, is going to be something called 3 of the Best. So on Route Down race day, let's try that again. Route Down Raceway, on that race day, we're going to get you all in, get you registered, get your number plates, and have like a starting time where the track opens. So let's say that starting time was 10 a.m. Now that track will remain open until, let's say, 4 p.m. and you will be able to take as many runs at that track as you wish between, like if it was 10 and 4 p.m. You can, if you want to do, I don't know how many runs are going to be capable of doing it, but if you want to do 30 runs at it, that's absolutely fine. If you want to do between half a dozen and 8 runs at it and have like a really long lunch break, that's also fine. But at the end of the day, we're going to be recording your 3 fastest runs. They're going to be added together, and that's what's going to give you your actual race time for that day. So regardless of if you've done 30, it's only your 3 fastest that are going to be recorded. Now, the idea with that is, it's so that you guys taking part don't feel that massive pressure when you're up on the start gate. Yes, you are going to have a starter there, and it probably will be the old kind of, you know what, in all honesty, it's going to be either me or Simon on a walkie-talkie, and we're going to be shouting at you, riders ready, pedals ready, go. And in that instance, you set off, and that is not your only race run of the day. So if you hit a bad line, or you brake too late, and suddenly the next thing you know, and you're locking up the wheels, and maybe even a foot comes off, and you don't have to fight to try and win that time back somewhere else across the track. If you want to if something goes a little bit wrong on that run, and you want to just say, man, we'll sack this off and just treat it as a practice run and then come back up to the top and do another one, that's fine. The pressure's going to be completely off you. If you do 3 or 4 runs and you feel like they've gone really well and you want to have a break for lunch for an hour and sit and chill out and have a crack with everybody before heading up to do 3 or 4 more, again, that's fine too. We're going to count your fastest 3 of the day. So the first event that you'll see us put on, and again, this is the first public announcement that I've made of this. I'm not going to give a date out yet, but hopefully we'll get this happening in the next couple of months. The first event that we'll put on will be a 3 of the best race. So it's kind of it's a race that isn't a race or doesn't feel like a race, so to speak. I think me trying to describe the format of it won't be as helpful to you as experiencing the vibe of the day. So I think once we've done one of these and word starts to spread from the people who have taken part, I think that's going to be a much easier tool for ourselves at Root Down to propagate. Oh, Jesus, I'm not well at all. To propagate out there than us trying to constantly describe this to you. But it's racing, but in a chilled way. I think that's the absolute easiest way that I can describe it. Anyway, that's not all that we're going to be doing. We are going to be, we've got to remember that at our fingertips, we've got a dual slalom track. So I'd really like to put on a dual slalom series, especially in the summer evenings. So that's something to look out for as well. And ultimately, there will be a GNAR Duro. But we'll obviously taking out Electric Landlady out of this and taking Beggars Canyon out of it as well. Across the rest of the tracks, we will be doing like a 3. You do 3 runs of each, and it'll be a classic sort of enduro series style race day, where you get to experience a lot of different tracks and a lot of saddle time. And it's going to be your total time across the whole park, so almost the whole park, so to speak. I just don't think it's wise to have Electric Landlady in an enduro race. So that's one of the reasons that'll be left out. But so that's something that we'll be doing. I'm also in the process of setting up a large landing. I've got a spot marked out for it. I'm aware that it is not going to be a particularly easy build, but I do have a place for it and an idea of how we can set it up. So essentially a giant landing will be built, and we'll make a borderline moto kicker. So that, what's the best way of describing this? Having to do stuff verbally when actually it's all visual in my head. So it'll be like quite an aggressive transition moto kicker that's probably going to be built out of marine ply, and then we'll seat that somewhere in near the landing, and I'd like to do a bit of a whip-offs or an air and style comp as well, and we can get some judges involved and get some prizes sorted for that, and it'll be more of like a jam style event and a bit more relaxed and a bit more of a hangout. At the end of the day, it'll be one of those where if you sign up to take part in the whip off, again air quotes, or the air and style thing, even if you're signing up and you're thinking, oh man, I don't think I can win this, what you can at least think to yourself is, yeah, I might not win, but it's going to be full of photographers, and I'm going to get some decent footage out of this. Oh, I do apologise. I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time on this recording and edit out the coughing and the nose blowing. So what was I saying? So the idea on the kind of air and style aspect of it is not that you're going to be entering a jump competition because you feel like you're the most badass jumper and you're totally going to at least get a podium. That's not the vibe of it. The idea is that you enter into this there's going to be tunes, there's going to be party trains going on. Obviously, you don't have to be in the train every run. You can take a bit of time to watch other people jump in. And hey, even if, let's be real, like me, you're busting out a bit of a bar turn and throwing a slight bit of shapes, at least you're going to be able to get some awesome photographs from it for Instagram. Either your friends capture them, or but my intention is to bring in some photographers as well to capture professional level photographs. And it's some cool shit to show your friends. And frankly, at the end of the day, you've just had a good time. So, some people will be able to enter it and think, well, you know what, my whips are pretty badass. I reckon I can podium. But let's be real. Again, that's like 1% of the people that are going to be there. So it's you're not going to be signing up and telling your mates, oh, I've entered this air and style comp up at GNAR, Route Down Events are putting it on, and be at the same time semi saying, because I'm an awesome stylist, I've got the best style ever. It's the whole idea of it is it's just going to be a bit of a laugh and get some cool photos out of it. So that's kind of the vibe of Route Down. It's going to be about being chilled and doing things in a slightly different way, and making it not always focused about the winning. In fact, to be honest, we're going to celebrate dead last just as hard as we're going to celebrate number one position. So it's about gathering together and having an event, and about it, to be honest, really being a social event that there just happens to be a slight competitive edge to, if you want to take part in that competitive edge. And frankly, we're not forcing anybody to, and we're not making you do it either. Just it's chilled. If we get a situation where myself and Simon are able to organise it so that we're taking part as well, dude, just follow our lead, because we won't be taking it particularly seriously, and we'll just be chilling and having a laugh as well. So, that is the whole vibe of it. That kind of brings me on to the other things as well about diversity within Route Down. It's not all about riding the bike. There's other aspects to Route Down events as well. So this morning, I've just made an inquiry and had some really interesting feedback back. So in a couple of days, I'm going to meet her actually. Locally to Penrith, which is where I live, we've got an awesome theatre set up, which I think is it's either 2 screens or 3 screens, and it's got a bar area and absolute shit tons of parking, and it's open late. So I want to utilise that because, and you may have heard about this already, but Anthill Films, so the guys who did Unreal, Follow Me, From the Inside Out, Where the Trail Ends. I mean, these guys make amazing films. The Darcy Wittenberg, the head honcho over there, they're based out of British Columbia. Excuse me, I couldn't avoid that one. They just make some of my favourite films ever. Anybody who knows me knows that I think Unreal is amazing. And they're releasing a new film in the summer called Return to Earth. So I have made inquiries about hosting a UK premiere for that in this theatre that I'm talking about. So I've got in touch with the owners and been like, how does this work? What would it cost to hire the theatre? How can we do this? I've got some good information come back this morning. The theatre that they would let us have, it seats 262 people. She's seen the trailer and she's seen some of the other work that Anthill do, and she's like, yeah, that totally fits in with our kind of vibe. So, I'm just waiting to hear back from Darcy now, which I believe I'm hearing beginning of February, so like a week and a half's time. So in June, hopefully Route Down Events will be putting on a film premiere, which, Jesus, I never thought that I would say that that's a possibility, but hey, as it stands right now, it's looking like it's really on the cards, and it's something that we're going to be able to do. And hey, how much of a laugh is that going to be? We all get together and watch this fucking amazing film. It's great. You know, I watched Unreal when it came out off of iTunes, I think, watched it on my laptop at home, and I was stoked on it. But that's not going to be the same as watching it in a 262 seat theatre with all a bunch of other mountain bikers and some of your mates as well. You know, it's going to be a better vibe, and it's going to be better crack. And he's seen it on the big screen, and believe me, their sound systems that they've got installed, the screen clarity is amazing. It's like one of these HD projectors. I've seen a few films there. It's really, really good. But the surround sound stuff that they've got set up is amazing too. There's no expenses spared, so it's a perfect location to do it in. Obviously, you can probably hear I'm really stoked on the fact that we've managed to get a yes back, because it's a mountain biking film. I didn't know whether they would be that keen on us doing it, but yeah, they totally are. So I'm going to go and meet her on Friday, and we can have a chat about it, and then hear back from Darcy and see if we can get that set up for June. I mean, that's going to be ace as well. But this is another thing for Root Down. It's not. I'm not setting up, or actually, more to the point, myself and Simon aren't setting up an all-out race company. That's not what it's about. And if you follow what GNAR's done, and you've been to GNAR and we've met, then hopefully you'll know that Root Down is coming from the same place as GNAR. It's going to be just that little bit different to the norm, and certainly geared towards let's be real. If I'm making the company, I'm going to do the things with it that I want to see the most. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. Oh God, I'm going to cough again. So that kind of gives you an overview and covers the whole Root Down deal and what we're all about on that side of things. The next thing to talk about, I suppose, is sponsors and sponsorship. You may remember that back in 2017, GNAR was sponsored by Norco Bikes. Well, the reality of that is GNAR wasn't actually sponsored by Norco themselves. I was sponsored by Evans, Evans Cycles, who were their UK distributors. Now, in early 2018, early of last year, in fact, kind of this time last year, I turned down the offer of a brand new 2019 Norco, and I copped, I would say, my fair share, but I've copped more than my fair share of flack for turning that down off friends, family, bloody everyone. But the truth of it is, I was totally stoked on the Norco bikes themselves, and I said this in an email to the guys at Norco Canada. I thought back then, and I still think now, that their bikes were great. They were fantastic. I just wasn't stoked on what was going on with Evans. Now that was January when I said, no thank you, I don't want to do this anymore, and no, I don't want your new bike. Then a few months later, it transpired that Evans were in a bit of trouble. I think to the tune of about 13 million quid. Now they've been sold. And their story's kind of gone a little bit tricky times, I suppose. Now I didn't really get a whiff, or I wasn't told any specifics of that at the time, but it was just the way that I was communicating with the Evans head office, and the amount of different people that were communicating with me and the different stories that were coming through. It seemed very corporate, and I've lived in that world before. A lot of miscommunication, a bit shitty, and frankly not something that I wanted to be involved with, regardless of whether it meant a free bike or not. Now, I've been reminded this week that if you delve back into the GNAR Bike Park vlogs, and you've got to go about 3 years deep back on this one. In fact, the spot where I'm standing, when I made this statement, it's where the cabin is now, and so the cabin wasn't even there. But in one of the vlogs, I made a very kind of straight up statement of, I'm not going to be involved with any sponsors unless I'm absolutely stoked on them, because I just don't like the idea of pretending. Well, pretending to me falls too closely, and it's too closely aligned with just lying to you guys. I'm not gonna say, yeah, this is great, if I don't actually think it's great, because it does feel like lying. Now I know that I need to an extent, I should man up a little bit about that part of me, because, you know, this is the business world and this is just how it works. But frankly, you know, I've played that game, I've played the corporate game, and one of the reasons for getting out of that world and getting into what I'm passionate about and mountain biking is because I just don't want to do it anymore, and I don't want to bullshit anyone, and if I don't have to, I'm just not gonna. So I'd made that statement over 3 years ago. I still stand by it now. I stood by it then when I turned down the new bike, and that I said I didn't want to be involved with them anymore, and I still stand by it now. Sometimes being a stubborn bastard does help. It can hurt you as much as help you, but every now and again it does help. And what's happened now is I've been lucky enough to get involved with Fasthouse UK and X-Brand goggles. Now, some of you might not be wholly familiar with Fasthouse because they've actually crossed over from the motocross world into mountain biking. But they did that in such a way where when they came into mountain biking, they snagged two of my favourite riders ever. So the two of the guys that ride for them are Tyler McCall and Ryan R-Dog Howard. And they still ride for them now. Now, in the world of Fasthouse, two of their big sort of mantras are speed, style, good times, and also the hashtag that you see next to them a lot of the time is we race sometimes. Or they've also got when rules we cherish the times when rules with you. Now, they sit perfectly in the same mindset as I have for GNAR and Root Down. That frankly, at the end of the day, this is us all doing something because it's fun, and it's fun to do it. I don't want to take it overly seriously. It's not about, it's not about the corporate world, and Fasthouse certainly aren't about that. They appreciate that it's supposed to be fun, and they appreciate that it's about having a good time and a good laugh. So just a perfect match. I couldn't be more happy with being involved with these guys. We were also lucky enough to pick up a sponsorship from X-Brand goggles. Now, it may surprise some of you to learn that I don't watch TV, so that means I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones. What was the other one that came out that I don't even know what it is. I've never seen one episode. What was the thing with the guy who cooked up his own meth? I can't even remember the freaking name of the TV show. I've never seen an episode of that. Peaky Blinders just sounds like a funny name to me. I've never seen an episode of that, although I do know that it's supposed to be set in old school UK. But again, I don't watch TV. I live with three girls, so they've got the control of the TV and the settee, to be brutally honest. I've got my desk and my laptop. So I watch a lot of YouTube, I watch some Netflix, for comedy specials, I suppose, but I watch a lot of YouTube, and I first noticed X-Brand goggles through one of the guys that I subscribe to is Twitch This. So Twitch, the motocross freeride guy, he basically, his whole channel is about him inviting a bunch of his mates to go out riding, and they film it. So first of all, you've got people like Tyler Berriman, who is a fast house rider, and he's now a Red Bull rider as well. His whips are just astounding. I really do urge you to go onto YouTube and search up Tyler Berriman, because his motor whips are something else. He actually gets himself to a point where he turns almost 180 in the air, and he's facing the opposite direction. And obviously with the motorbike, you do get to rev up that back wheel for the gyroscopic effect to bring you back round again, which you can't do on a mountain bike. But dude, it looks so cool, so cool. Anyway, on Twitch's channel, he brings in a lot of mates, and I started to see this quite a bold EKS logo on the side of people's goggles. So I'd noticed that, and they're kind of cool. But another brand that, very much like Fast House, they don't sponsor people to particularly go out there and get podiums. They more sponsor people to be like, hey, just take our products, go out and do what you're going to do. Just be cool and have good times. Now, that was my first introduction to them. Now, when Fran sent us over the care package of the Fast House and the EKS, the X brand stuff, I got to actually try them out for myself. And man, talk about comfy. Whatever they've done, they've made it so that they're not a one-purpose goggle suits all. So it's not like they've been designed so that you can wear them snowboarding, you can wear them doing whatever. Their design fits beautifully into the opening of a full face helmet. So you get a nice snug fit again around your face. You get a nice enclosure. They don't nip the bridge of your nose, which I have found with some goggles that they can be a bit uncomfortable when they push hard. I've broken my nose like 13 times. And if I get one that pushes a bit hard on the bridge of my nose, it basically renders that pair of goggles completely useless. Regardless of whether whatever Oakley air brakes that you paid 130 quid for. The other cool thing about these X-Brand goggles is that you're not paying an arm and a leg for them either, which so perfect. We've picked up two sponsors that I can really get behind, and I can really honestly feel like they sit in with both GNAR and Root Down in the ethos of what we're trying to do. They both have the core values of this is supposed to be about fun. It's not always about winning, and mostly it's about just hanging out with your mates and having a good time, and that fits perfectly. So jumping back to that video that I made 3 years ago, where I said I'm definitely not going to be involved with anybody I don't want to be involved in. It's a bold statement to make at the time, and when it comes to things like having to turn down a brand new bike that I really, a Norco that I really liked, and having to say no to it, do you know what the bummer was? The bummer on that one is they were going to send me a black and green one as well. So man, I was pissed about having to make that decision, but it is what it is. I suppose you've got to stick to your guns. But then you get things like this happen, and we end up working with Fast House and X Brand, where great, it's absolutely what we want to do. What I should point out at this stage is for some of the guys that have contacted me through DMs, yes, we are open to talking about other sponsorships. And yes, it is something that we will enter into a conversation with you about. The truth of it is, because of everything that I've just explained, if it's a product that I haven't used before, or a product that I don't know enough about, please just allow me a little bit of time to familiarise myself with it. So if I've seemed, do you know what, I'm specifically talking about a couple of things that have happened in the past couple of weeks. and I've been a little bit worried that I might have seemed a little bit standoffish, where and been like, oh, okay, well, we'll check it out. It's just because I want to be, before I say yes, we'll totally promote that. It's because I want to be sure that it's something that we're going to be stoked on and something that we're going to be happy to promote. So yeah, I'm a bit ill at the moment. I've been very busy, and I'm not fobbing anybody off. And also it's a little bit weird doing it through DMs, guys, on Instagram. I understand that being as the initial contact point, but just send me an email. The email address for GNAR and Root Down are both out there and clearly visible. And hell, my phone number's on the GNAR Facebook page. Give me a ring. It's easier. I'm in my 40s, so I like to use an actual keyboard to do long form stuff. So I'd rather do that through email than tapping on a glass screen from Instagram. And B, even more preferably, I'd rather just talk to you on the phone. So hopefully that clears up a little bit of housekeeping on that. So that brings us round to the kind of burning question, the one that I get messages at least 3 times a day for, and I've done since October, is when's GNAR reopening? Well, as you can imagine, taking on another venture like Root Down on top of building my own bike park, it's pretty time consuming and pretty taxing. So there had to be a period of kind of just close it down for a minute, gather everything together, get everything launched, start working in this new headspace, and then basically get the big racetrack in and running and in place, and then we can reopen. So right as it stands right now, we're back end of January coming into February next week. The GNAR's going to reopen for normal openings, which will be weekends and bank holidays, and then evenings as we get into the lighter nights. That's going to reopen in mid to late March. So it's not very many weeks now. It's not long before we can get back to normality, and Jesus Christ, I can't wait to get back to normality. But yeah, it's not long now before that reopens, and be sure that I'm going to definitely give you a heads up of when we're reopening, the dates on that when we get a little bit more down the line. But yeah, I will be honest with you, I can't wait. As much fun as it's been to formulate and launch a project like Root Down, and as much fun as it is to build your own bike park, it's hard work. It's kind of all consuming, and even on days when you're sick and unable to do anything, you still find yourself semi working on it by making podcasts. But it's definitely rewarding. But yeah, it was a good idea just to press pause over the winter and just get my headspace and get my time into get everything set up. So I'll reiterate that the Root Down racetrack is going to be open all the time at GNAR, so that when we do come to put events on that track, it's not going to be something where it's going to be like a weekend event where it's Saturday's practice day and you're expected to fork out to stay over somewhere for Sunday to be race day. There's not going to be any need for that, because the track's going to be open all the time and you can run it whenever you like and in any of the weeks leading up to the event. So again, one of the ideas is about the costs. The costs of racing, let's be honest, it's not cheap. So if there's ways to bring down those costs to you guys, then you better believe that I'm going to try and find a way to do that. So yeah, we can rule out any need to stay the night somewhere, because the only time you're allowed to ride the track is on practice days, and then you've got to race it on the Sunday. So yeah, we'll rule that out completely. It'll just be open all the time. So once that's up and running, what's happening next? Well, the next thing to go in is going to be Beggars Canyon, which is a track that I've been formulating and working on for quite a period of time. And to be honest with you, I've actually already done some of the log layups on it. So when I start to do the build vlogs on Beggars Canyon, the first episode of those build vlogs might seem a little bit strange, where people will be like, hang on, half of this is already cut through and already done. That's just because I've been working on it for a while. It's had to wait in order. So for example, Electric Landlady had to come before Beggars Canyon, because that's just the ramp up of the progression level that's in there. And for the log layups that are currently in, I'm looking at them. I know that they're rideable, and I know that they're doable. But I'm at the same time, I'm also looking at them from my own personal headspace of thinking, Jesus, how the hell am I going to clear that and get over there? So there might be some tweaks to be done, and there are going to be some big features on there, and there are going to be some big jumps. Now, I also appreciate that that's not to everyone's liking, but at the same time, when I set off to do this park, I always wanted to be able to push the envelope and push the progression and have it available. Now, just because it's available doesn't mean that you're expected to do it. So once Beggars Canyon comes online, it's going to be just like Electric Landlady. It's there, but I don't expect you to go and hit it. You don't have to. And if you're looking for something still challenging and still fun, then we've got the racetrack coming in, and you can session the jumps on that as well. Now, in much that same vein, when Beggars Canyon comes online, the next project after that is probably going to be a bit less on the progression scale, so to speak. So once we get Beggars Canyon live, which is the aiming for that is to be live for the summer. So once that's up and running, then the next build that comes in is probably going to be along the kind of flow track, with some options to kind of hop and jump, and some options to style it up as well. But yeah, we'll do Beggars Canyon, then we'll go back to sort of more of a flow trail that just might not be as taxing as Landlady and Beggars. So that's kind of the order that they're coming in. I know it sounds like a bit of a weird order, but again, like Electric Landlady, Beggars Canyon is a bit of an old itch that I need to scratch, and I need to kind of just get it out of my head and get it built and get it running. So yeah, the summer is the idea for that one, and then we'll crack on with the flow track after that. Further on from there is I've spoken about this before, not a lot, because it is a bit of a future project, but there is an opportunity and an area for building a free ride track. Now again, we really are talking about actual canyon gaps on this free ride track, so it is going to be one that I just don't expect that everyone's going to be able to ride. It's another one that I look at and in the area of it and think, Jesus, how am I going to ride it? But again, it is something that would be cool to be there. So cool as a goal to kind of work towards. And frankly, it'd just be something awesome to have on site. We will. I'll give you more details as I get sort of clearer ideas. But one of the reasons that hasn't kind of come in straight away or hasn't been at the forefront of my mind is the progression wise, it's way past. It is. It's just bigger and way past Landlady and Beggars. And B, it's not something that I can build by hand. I am going to need to bring the diggers in, which is going to mean I'm going to need a little bit of funding behind me to do that. Now, whether that funding comes through myself, or whether it comes from the outside from a third party, then we'll wait and see. But there's no real rush to have to get that in just yet. I just suppose I'm talking about it because it is kind of like one of the things that's on my mind for stuff that's coming to the park. So yeah, oh, excuse me. Oh, I didn't get to the pause button quickly enough for that one. That was a surprise cough. So that's kind of the plans coming up. Reopen in March and get back to normality. And we've still got plenty more tracks to come in from there and in the coming years. Root Down's just going to grow as we evolve our ideas further and further through. I think the truth, if truth be known, myself and Simon only really started to have a conversation about Root Down, less, it was like 5 months ago. And at first, for a few months, it was just a paper exercise, just something that when we met, we weren't meeting up every week about it. We were just, every time we'd kind of get together on like an ad hoc basis, we'd talk about the ideas and formulate it a bit more. And it is something that's quite organic and is still going. But I hope today I've been able to give you a bit of an idea of the direction and the intended direction that it's going. And that's kind of bringing us up to the hour mark now on this podcast. I can feel myself wanting to sneeze and cough and wheeze and dry throat and need a drink. So we're going to call it on this one. I think here, what we are, about an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 6 minutes. So if you've made it this far, then there's a bit of a reward for you. First of all, thank you for doing so. But I've got a 10% off code for you. So if you go to fasthouseuk.com, xbrandgoggles.co.uk, which is eksbrandgoggles.co.uk, or webiginc.co.uk, and you have a bit of a browse through there, and there's something that takes your fancy. At the point of checkout, you can use the code GNAR10, which is GNAR10, and that'll give you 10% off across all three of those websites, across all of their products. So that's a bit of good news, isn't it? Everybody likes a bit of money off. And really, guys, if you've enjoyed this podcast, then let me know. Hit me up, and I'll try and find a way of being able to make this a bit more of a regular thing, because I enjoy listening to them, I enjoy making them. So let me know if you enjoy it too. And before my throat and nose really shut down, I'm going to sign out and say ta-ra. See you soon, guys. Take it easy.